It's another Football Friday in Oklahoma, right here in Oklahoma City. I'm Mike Sherman from the News OK Studios, and this is the News OK Sports Football Friday Hangout. Joining me, as always, are my esteemed guests on the big board for the first time, columnist Berry Tramel from her apartment or home in Crestwood, Oklahoma City, Jenni Carlson, our OU beat writer Jason Kersey from his apartment in Norman, and from her luxury apartment in Stillwater, Oklahoma, Gina Mizell.
Why do you always say that? You've never even been here.
I hear it's really nice.
I enjoy it. Well, yeah.
I hear it's great. And I look forward to visiting it sometime. But first, before we get to that, let's get to the OU Notre Dame game. Guys, it's been written about, talked about, and on Saturday night at 7 o'clock, they're finally going to get around to playing it. But I want to start off today with asking you this. We've written so many stories about the off-the-field connections of this game that really, in a lot of ways, illustrate the deep heritage of these programs and their connections. So I would like to start off by asking you first, Berry, what's been your favorite OU Notre Dame sort of connection that's been unearthed or fallen out of the sky this week as we've been writing on OU Notre Dame?
Well, there's a couple that stand out to me. I liked Jenny's story on the father down in Lawton, Joe Ross, who helped serve Mass as a 12-year-old in Chickasha in 1957, and then ended up going to Notre Dame, and now is still a pastor here at the Lawton Church. So that kind of connection, people who had some sort of connection with the Irish when they were here 55 years ago. And I also I had no idea that Don Bushey, that Bob Stoops, high school coach, went to Notre Dame until he and Mike dropped that nugget on me this week, and that's fairly remarkable. So just things like that. There's tons and tons of Notre Dame connections. The deal is Notre Dame's a national school, and everywhere it goes to play football, it leaves an impact, and it left impact here in Oklahoma.
Jenny, you've written a lot of these stories. What's been your favorite, and what do you think we've learned from it?
Well, I mean, I think it reminds us that this rivalry has a lot of roots in a lot of different places, and I agree with Berry. I thought the Joe Ross story was really. It was crazy how that connection happened, and we actually unearthed that story from a reader, friend of the program, Dennis Richard, who's a local attorney, and Sherman goes to your church and let us know about Father Ross and the connection that was there. But to me, it's another reminder too that Notre Dame has an appeal that is really national. I mean, here we are in a place where Oklahoma football is so big and such a big part of our sports scene, but yet we've got a lot of Notre Dame fans that are right here amongst us. So I think that's what it sort of reminded me of, is that don't be surprised if Newt Rockney's great-grandson is cheering on the sidelines for the Sooners. I mean, just crazy stories like that have been really fun to see as they've come out of the woodwork this week.
Jason, a lot of this stuff is sort of, this is the stuff of your father and your grandfather's time, but what have you found educated about, or what surprised you or interested you about these stories?
Well, I'm interested in all the history stuff, and finding out, like Berry said, that Bob Stoops, high school coach, was a Notre Dame quarterback is really interesting to me. Berry's story about the "Play Like a Champion" sign and the debate over who had the original is really interesting. The connections between these two schools. They haven't played all that many times, but there are these connections because they're both such historical powers. And then finding out, that Newt Rockney's heritage was an OU cheerleader. That's fascinating to me, that there are these connections. So I've really enjoyed all the off the field stuff. I think it's been a lot of fun to read about.
Gina, I knew I was going to hire you when I asked you in the interview what was your favorite place to be, and you said Sun Devil Stadium. So I knew we had somebody on our hands that loved and appreciated college football and would do a great job covering it. But you've kind of, for this part of the beat, you've kind of had a spectator standpoint on it. What are your observations this week just about OU, Notre Dame, and sort of all the stuff that's sort of been unearthed or fallen out of the sky about the game?
Yeah, I mean, just all the, connections, like everybody has said, just, people that you would think would be Notre Dame fans, but are OU cheerleaders because of the heritage there. Or just, it seemed like every day Berry was posting a blog that someone had emailed him with their own, unique story about the rivalry or something they remembered or their connection to OU and Notre Dame or what have you. And so that's been just really fascinating. Obviously, this is a huge football game, and that's ultimately what's going to be played tomorrow. But just the connections, it's crazy. And like everyone said, I mean, Notre Dame's I don't want to say power, but Notre Dame's reach goes from coast to coast, from everywhere in this country. Either you love them or you hate them, and just to kind of see those stories and to kind of localize them with OU, and then you tack on the winning streak and Notre Dame breaking it and all of that. It kind of creates just such a great narrative and just story after story after story. So it's been really fun for me to just kind of read it and to kind of just see what everyone else has come up with. And our paper today with the special wrap, Notre Dame OU wrap is pretty special. So it's been really fun for me to read all of that stuff.
Berry, you've covered OU football, or been around it most of your life. This week, Bob Stoops said this was the biggest game since 2000 Nebraska. Do you agree, or do you think it's even bigger than that?
Well, I think you got to determine what you mean by big. I think it's not bigger than OU Nebraska 2000, or it's not even bigger than 08 Texas Tech, because that was near the end of the season and they were ranked 2 and whatever it was. That was a virtual national semifinal. But in terms of anticipation, electricity, atmosphere, then I think it's got a chance to supersede those because it's Notre Dame. The truth of the matter is, I'm looking at the lineup here. I'm the only one on this panel that was alive the last time Notre Dame came to OU, and I came to Owen Field, and I was 5 years old. So it's going to be a very special night just because it's Notre Dame, the history, and the fact now that the Irish have done us the incredible favor of getting good and making this a nationally relevant game.
Jenni, how good are the Irish?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. I mean, they've obviously won every game they've played so far this year, but, I think you look at the teams they've played and there's not a Big 12 style team on their schedule. They haven't beaten an offense like Oklahoma. They haven't faced that type of air raid pressure yet this year. So I think they're really good, but I don't know how they're going to fare against a team like this. We don't have evidence of how they're going to do. And obviously they're going to try to shorten the game, going to try to run the ball and really take the air out of it. But Oklahoma, if they take care of the ball and move it like we know they can, even against a really good defense, I think they win this game. I think Notre Dame is a really good team. I'm just not sure that we know exactly how they're going to stack up against this type of offense.
Guys, I was going to ask, and I'm going to ask, what it is about this game that you're most looking forward to or you're most curious about. But before I get to that, I want to get to something I'm a little curious about. I read Jason Kersey's head-to-head matchups. This is our wrap section, as Gina referred to it. On the back, there's a great head-to-head look at this game coming up. And in it, Jason Kersey took the game apart, went position by position, included special teams and coaching, and really gave an advantage into each area. Jason, I found myself a little surprised how many advantages you gave to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Well, to be honest with you, when I was going through and doing that, I kind of found myself a little surprised. But, their running backs, they've got 3 running backs that have played well. They've got an offensive line that, it's hard to the OU offensive line has played so well, especially considering what they lost early in the year. And they're really coming together nicely. But Notre Dame's offensive line is much more experienced and much deeper. And then on the defensive side, I think there's no question that Notre Dame's defensive line and linebackers have the edge. Although that doesn't mean OU's have played bad, but Notre Dame's are just so good up front. But yeah, on the whole, though, I still think OU is the more complete team, and they're playing well in every phase of the game, particularly on special teams. Notre Dame's special teams, especially their return game, has been pretty atrocious this year. So I think things like that really give OU the overall edge.
The forecast for Norman is going to be cold on Saturday night, and Berry, that seems to be I don't know how conducive that is to throwing the ball around the field and playing wide open, running footloose and fancy free. But what are you curious about in this game? What is it about it that you hope will be revealed or surprising, or what are you anxious about to learn on Saturday night?
Can OU protect Landry Jones? Can the Sooners run the ball? I think the OU offensive line, J.K. McKay is right. They are playing a lot better than maybe we thought. But this is going to be a stiff test. Can they produce against Notre Dame? OU wants to run the ball and then pick at spots to throw deep. And can they protect Landry when it happens? I think we know what's going to happen when Notre Dame has the ball. They're going to run 3 or 4 plays and punt. So it's when OU has the ball that we really don't know much about. So that's what I'm most interested in.
Gina, you'll be in Stillwater for the TCU OSU game, and we'll get to that here in a few minutes. But I want to go back for a second. Berry said the real question is, can OU protect Landry Jones? The last time you were covering a game that Landry Jones was playing in, the answer to that was no. No. How did the Cowboys do that? How did they get after him that night?
They blitzed like crazy. They had 2 weeks to dial up that game plan, and they just brought pressure from the linebackers. They got great pressure off the edge from Rashedi Jones, who caused a fumble and scored a touchdown. And Jamie Blatnick obviously scooped up that ball when Alex Elkins got to Landry and picked it up and rumbled down the sideline and almost scored. So they were just really, really aggressive and just tried to go after Landry Jones, and obviously it worked. And really it worked to perfection as far as just the game plan to blitz and blitz and blitz. So obviously Notre Dame's got a good defense and has what some people believe is a Heisman candidate in Monte Te'o, but so I think that is the biggest key in this game for Oklahoma is can this offensive line that was so banged up at the start of the season, but has come on and performed better than, like you said, Berry, maybe than people thought. I think that'll definitely be the matchup to watch to see if they can get to Landry and force him to make bad decisions or force a turnover or two, and see if they can slow this offense down.
Jason, contrast that a little bit, what Gina described about how OSU came after Landry Jones with how Kansas State came after him, and talk a little bit about what you wrote today. Your story was how Kansas State could have given everybody else, including Notre Dame, a blueprint on how to attack Landry Jones. Contrast those two games and talk about what you think we'll see from the defensive side attacking OU tomorrow or Saturday.
Yeah. Kansas State's defensive front came at Landry Jones, really hard and forced him into some mistakes. Obviously, the big one being his fumble into the end zone that they recovered for a touchdown. I think he's obviously playing a whole lot better today than he was against Kansas State. But the question is how does anybody really know that Texas Tech's defense looks like it might be okay. Texas's defense is terrible. Kansas's defense isn't any good. So he hasn't seen anything like this since that Kansas State game. So this is the biggest test for him and for that offensive line since the Kansas State game. And so it'll be really interesting to see how well they're able to hold those guys off.
Jenni, on that night in Norman when Kansas State came to town, you had the unique assignment of spending it with Mrs. Landry Jones. That wasn't sort of what we thought it was going to be. And you turned in a very interesting story about if you think it was hard for you to watch, just imagine what it would have been like to be her. Some of those moments you were following her up and down, the corridors of the stadium, and may not have been as honed on Landry that night as maybe you would have been if you'd been covering it in a different way. But let me ask you this. Is this Landry Jones's chance to bury a lot of the criticism of him once and for all? Is this the best defensive challenge he's faced as an OU quarterback? And does the spotlight and the stage and everything else give him a chance to check that off and move on?
Well, I think it can definitely help him in that way and silence some critics. Clearly, if he plays well, I think that's going to go a long way to the outcome of this game. I believed from the start that for Notre Dame to win this game, they need defensive points. They need either touchdown or touchdowns or short fields that their offense, if they don't score, can kick field goals. I think that is going to happen if Notre Dame wants to win on Saturday. And a lot of that's going to come down to, is Landry Jones giving them the ball or not? Now, obviously, other guys could fumble and those sorts of things, but a lot of that comes down to, does Landry throw interceptions? Does Landry fumble the ball? So I think if he doesn't, I think it goes a long ways towards Oklahoma winning this game. And clearly, he's got a chance with Notre Dame secondary not having faced a test quite like this to really make an impact with his arm. I think that big playability we saw last week, if he can hit Kenny Stills or Jalen Saunders or some of these other guys for big plays, that'll be huge. And, I think it could happen. So, I think it'll go a ways towards making people, OU fans, feel somewhat different about him. But ultimately, it's about championships, and a national championship. He's going to have played all these years, and if he doesn't get a national championship, I think that's going to leave some people to say, was he, how great a quarterback was he? So, obviously it's not all what Landry Jones does. The Sooners need help in a lot of ways to get back into that national championship picture, but this is a step in my mind to Landry Jones's legacy. I don't think it ends everything, but it's a step towards maybe helping that.
Jenni, while we're hanging out here talking OU Notre Dame, you're also monitoring and answering questions on the Power Lunch live chat. I just wanted to ask you, what are people curious about the OU Notre Dame? What kind of questions are you getting from that?
I think a lot of people are just wondering where the points of least resistance are against Notre Dame. Obviously, as Jason said earlier, Irish really good on the line, on the lines, both sides of the ball. What does that mean for Oklahoma? And, where can the difference be in this game? Questions about Landry Jones. And I do think that people are curious how he will play in this game. So, those are sort of the tenor of the questions. Where does Oklahoma swing this game potentially? And how does Landry Jones play into this whole thing for Oklahoma?
Okay, guys, we're going to wrap up our Notre Dame OU segment with a couple questions about atmosphere, and the first one leads to atmosphere, and that is the best fight song in college football reportedly is coming to town, and in Notre Dame. Berry, what's your favorite? What's the best one that what do you love? We lost Berry. Jason, what's your best fight song? Berry will be back in a second.
Oh, that's tough. I like a lot of fight songs. I think Notre Dame's is definitely up there. I think Michigan's is really good, and I think Texas A&M's fight song is really good, and might make some people mad by saying this, but I think Texas's fight song is one of the best. The Texas Fight is one of the best fight songs.
And if I keep going, if I give you another few minutes, you'll name 5 more. Do you want to pick one?
Those are the 4. I'll probably give the edge to Notre Dame's fight song as the best, but it's tough. I like a lot of them.
Gina, Mizell, Hum a few bars of the Arizona State fight song.
Ah, man, you're putting me on the spot. I can, well, okay, I was going to say I could sing it for you, but I'm not going to do that.
Why?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
How did that not make Jason's list?
Yeah, I don't know a lot of fight songs, whose fight songs are what, but from playing my video game where they play it in the background the whole time, they play random fight songs. I know a bunch of them. I just don't know what schools they correspond to.
Gina, who's your favorite?
Well, Jason mentioned it in his list, but I think Michigan's is my favorite. Just it's just so powerful with the "Hail to the Victors," all of that. So that's probably my favorite one. But yeah, Notre Dame's obviously got a good one. But yeah, I got to give the edge to Michigan as the all-time best.
Jenni, who you got?
I think I will go to the West Coast and go with USC.
No.
They have sort of a, I know, I knew Gina was,
Oxygen for Vinegar and Mizell. Medic to Stillwater, please.
I knew Gina was going to love that. No, don't they have like 2 or 3 songs that they sort of link together, and it's the, dun, 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 dun.
All the time.
When they're driving it down your throat, yes, that's really good stuff.
Like a true Pac-10 rival. Sorry, Gina. No, I do, but I love the trumpets and the brass and all that stuff, and I know that's annoying to a lot of people. But the USC, I don't know if it's I don't even know that I really like. Probably their actual fight song is the one I like least. I like the trumpet thing that starts out USC's fight song. The
pomp and circumstance that Dan Cody learned to love so much in the Orange Bowl that night in Miami in 2005. Berry, are you going to take mine? What's your favorite?
Well, I mean, it's not a question of favorite. It's not much of a debate. I mean, clearly the best fight song in America is the Naval Academy's Anchors Aweigh. I mean, what self-respecting American can't stand up and cheer when the Navy band starts playing Anchors Aweigh? But if you want to eliminate the navies because of military reasons, then you can go to. There's a lot of them. I tell you, who's got a good one is Alabama. They got a great fight song. And Wisconsin's great. And Michigan and Notre Dame are fantastic as well. That's probably the big 5 right there.
An underrated one is the University of Maryland. And they're so good. They're so good they've got 2 of them. They've got 2 fight songs.
Who's underrated? Who's rating them at all? You're the only person that rates them, and therefore they're absolutely overrated.
I challenge anybody to Google it up. YouTube. Maryland's fight song. You'll like, how come this has been hid? This fight song deserves a better football team. I'm telling you, when you listen to it, you will demand a better football team for that fight song.
Oh, great day.
Anchors Aweigh is way up there. I mean, way, way, way up there. The Air Force Academy, off they go into the wild blue yonder. You can't. It's very, very hard to beat. And I hate to say this, but Maryland's is really good. Berry, last question on OU. Notre Dame, best game atmosphere you've ever been at for an OU game, and do you think Saturday night could approach it?
Oh, it was clearly Texas Tech of 08. There hadn't been anything like that. I would be surprised if it approached that because that fan crowd was sort of instigated by Bob Stoops calling them out. He didn't call them out this week, so. But I think it'll be very good. It'll be right up there with 2000 Nebraska and some of the Nebraska games of the 80s. But I don't know how it could reach 2008 Texas Tech.
Thanks, Berry. That's all for this edition of the Football Friday Hangout on News OK Live. But you can stay with the best coverage team anywhere, every day at News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman. See you guys.